high-functioning woman feels the same thing a low-functioning woman feels. She does two things differently. High-functioning woman can regulate her emotions to articulate it so it comes out with emotional intelligence. And she uses what she feels, and chooses with her healthy self and not her dysfunctional self. That's the only difference.
Now, come around here dressed like Dancing with the Stars. Shut the up. Shut up. You being scary, you punk. Shut up.
The first time I seen Dr. Bryant is when she did that Cam Newton interview and she was giving it to his ass. And I'm like, I like her. That's the type of therapist I want. That's the type of therapist I need. But then I see she's on Basketball Wives. She's single and she's not married. I'm confused, but that's not even a point. Why is she on the show arguing with Brooke in cahoots with Jackie? Brooke said, you always look like you dress for Dancing for the Stars. She looked at Brooke and said, shut the fuck up, you punk ass, scary ass. Dr. Bryant?
What's up, guys? It's your girl Rivah, and I am back again with another video. Listen, I don't think that I have ever had a video requested of me to react to so much, probably since the inception of Rivah TV, besides this video. Okay, there have been so many people. I know I was away. I was out of town. I was living it up, all those things. Also, a little bit under the weather as well. So if you hear me like clear my throat or anything, that's the reason why. But I mean, in my Instagram DM, on my YouTube comments for other videos that I posted, like everywhere that people could reach me or find me, whether they were phoning a friend, whether they were using Telegram, however it was that they could get to me, they were getting to me to try to get me to react to this video. And I gotta tell you, as much as you guys wanted me to react to this, I also wanted to react to this. So if you guys are not aware of this entire debacle situation, which I'm sure you guys are, there is Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, who was invited onto Cam Newton's podcast, in which he did an interview with her, and they talked about all kinds of things. They talked about dating, relationships, family structure, low functioning behavior, high value man, high value women. They talked about so many different things. And, there were a lot of people who were saying, like, in my comment section, oh, I know Rivah's probably not going to react to this because, this is holding a man accountable. And just off that comment alone and a couple of others, I knew that people were not going to expect, my feelings or my emotions behind this entire conversation. So I'm going to give it to you guys exactly how I feel, give you guys my opinion, whether you agree, disagree. We can talk about it in the comment section down below.
A family consists of a dynamic, and that dynamic consists of two parents and a child. And when you start to create that multiple times, that's called a blended family. And when there's somebody missing from the home, but they are the school daddy, meaning I pick them up or drop them off to school, or they are the sports mother or father, I come to the games, but they're not the I wake up and go to sleep with my kids, that household now is broken by the family dynamic.
So I think that clip in which she talked about the fact that, he was creating broken homes was one of the first clips of the entire interview that went viral. And, in that clip, I wanted to say this, right? Before we get into the nitty gritty, because there's so much stuff that we have to get into, but I wanted to say this, right? I personally, I've talked about it here on my channel, in the realm of women, and there's no difference when it comes to men that, I personally believe that if people are procreating and creating multiple children and they are not creating a family structure, it is, in my personal opinion, it's not beneficial to anybody. It's not beneficial for the man. It's not beneficial for the woman involved or the child, right? The child is going to grow up in some situations, not all, because some people have a great way of co-parenting in which, as soon as that child calls and wants to see their father, the other parent, the mother in the situation makes sure that she calls him and he is there. So there are some dynamics, interestingly enough, blended families or not, that sometimes, it's very rare, it's not often, it's not the majority of the time, but there's some dynamics that operate more healthy than people who are in children who grow up in a two-parent household in which the parents cannot get along, disagree all the time, nitpick with each other. Sometimes there are situations in which children are around, they live with their mother or their father, partially, or whatever the case is, and they have a better family dynamic than people who do have a two-parent household. But that does not mean that I agree with people, whether women or men, going around and constantly, you know, procreating and creating these situations on purpose, right? And when I say on purpose, I mean to the extent that there are a lot of people who, you know, because of status, because of their financial capability, because they are, you know, their options at the time, they are able to go around and create different family structures just because they are able to do so. And again, in my personal opinion, it's not like I stand here and I'm championing and saying that, you know, I agree with that or I support that, because again, majority of the time, I can't say, you know, all the time, but majority of the time, it is not beneficial for everyone in that situation. You know, the man has multiple people who can put him on child support, who can, you know, dangle that thing in front of him. You know, the woman is in a situation where sometimes a lot of those women are unable to even move on, because we already know when it comes to being a single mother, especially if you have multiple children, how hard it is in the dating market. And then again, the children are in a situation where sometimes they experience lack. So I do want to 100% say that part, and just make that known of how I feel about that situation.
Because in order for us to take it and heal it and do something with it, we got to call a damn duck a duck, so we know where to put it, what to feed it, how to do it, and what it needs. We can't be in this society as black people and want to give things different words so that it makes us feel better about our decision.
One thing that I thought was very interesting was that during the entire conversation, the onus was put on to Cam Newton on the things that he was doing, and he was the one who was out here creating these situations. But I found it very ironic that a lot of people jumped on that bandwagon, you know, talking about Cam Newton is the one who's doing all these things and how wrong he is. And they talked about Nick Cannon and, you know, situations of the like, because Dr. Cheyenne Bryant was also interviewed by Nick Cannon as well. So they brought up that situation. But I thought it was very interesting that all of a sudden, the whole my body, my choice, the whole, you know, women are in charge of who is born into the world, that whole entire conversation just went through the window. The entire conversation was of him purposely creating these situations, and the only reason why he's able to create these situations is because he is low functioning.
And that is a low functioning behavior, to say that I am going to create these homes. Oh, let me go better. I'm going to build these houses and put kids and these beautiful women and kids in them, but I ain't going to create a home in them.
I think it's interesting that, you know, the conversation again stems to, you know, what the man is doing, and he's the one who is creating these situations. But then again, the same way that we're forgetting the my body, my choice situation is the same exact way that people are forgetting, you know, the commentary that high value men can exercise options.
Would you consider me a high value man?
High valued or high functioning?
High value and high functioning.
High valued, yes.
What I said is high value men have options. They don't cheat, they exercise options.
All of a sudden, all of this knowledge that we have about people who are in certain predicaments or in certain situations and their ability to do certain things, because women who step into these arenas are more accepting of certain situations, especially if there is some kind of financial benefit, financial protection, you know, regarding the situation. A lot of people want to turn a blind eye and just put all the blame on the man. When we know, okay, if we're being really honest, a lot of these women who are involved in whatever situation, you know, Cam Newton had spoken about it previously when he did his interview with Erica Mena, that, you know, the first relationship that he was in where he had the majority of his children, you know, he was trying to fit into a role that didn't necessarily suit him. Right? So that means that he was trying to be the cookie cutter man, the cookie cutter husband, and he realized that that situation was not for him. What I found, again, very interesting is that there's so many people who attack this man for it. But when a woman is married to a man and has multiple children and decides one day that the spark is gone, decides one day that she has to put self-love in front of her marriage and in front of her, you know, family dynamic and her family structure with her children, women constantly support that. But when a man does it, it's like, oh, you're wrong. How could you? How dare you? I think that, you know, the conversation that she's having, and she's directing it to him, based off of the fact that he is, of course, obviously we know the one who is impregnating women and the one who is, in the situation in which he stated that he wants to still have more children, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's his, his prerogative, his choice. That has everything to do with him. But I think a major component of the conversation that is being missed is the fact that the women in this situation are accepting of this man's predicament and are still willing to be in relationships with him or still willing to procreate with him, already knowing the amount of children that he has. And you know what that shows me? That shows me that, again, the vast difference between women and men. If a woman is somewhere and she has, possibly the same amount of kids that he have, I believe 7 or 8 children, it is a very different ball game when she goes out there in the dating realm than it is for this man. This man still has the ability to marry a woman who has no children. Why? Because of his status. Why? Because of his financial situation. Women are more accepting. Women accept more from a high value man, and a high value man can mean a multitude of things. It could be a high earning man. It could be a man that is sure of himself and respects himself. Why do you think that Pookie got so much kids? Why do you think that Pookie have so much kids? Pookie has so many children for so many different reasons. Pookie has so much kids because he got light eyes. Pookie has so much kids because he quote unquote has good hair. Pookie has so much kids because of his confidence. Pookie has so much kids because of the way that he is intimate with women and the way that he knows their bodies. Let's talk about it for real. And if we think about it, even in that situation, it might not be quote unquote a high value man based off of status or based off of certain things, but it might be because of the way in which he respects himself or the way he carries himself that women are attracted to. And if you think about it, most of the time, Pookie not even financially taking care of them kids. Those women find other reasons or other ways, whether it's the government or any other situation that they have to deal with, just so that Pookie and them can have a good relationship. So again, I think that the focal point of the conversation that went quote unquote so viral about, him being low functioning and creating these broken homes, I think that we also, all of a sudden we can put all of that ownership on men when it's convenient. But other times, if a man wants to keep a child and a woman decides that she does not want to, he has no say in the matter. When women, purposely get pregnant by a man, tell them they're on birth control, use the turkey baster method or whatever the situation is because they want to, quote unquote, trap the man. People are all for it. Well, that's her body. That's her choice. That's her child. You can't tell her what to do. And I think that in this situation is absolutely no different. Again, the women who are willing participants in this situation are completely aware of everything that is going on. Now, after this whole situation went viral, I saw that Cam Newton's first baby mother actually made a video, and she posted talking about how, her situation of being a single mother and, all of these things. And then she also talked about how her and Cam are, co-parenting, where she gets 1 week on, 1 week off. And she is able to do a lot of different things because of the space in between.
And my partner, we separated. So I'm a single mom of 5. 5 kids later, people always ask, well, why are you, what happened with your marriage? Or why you're not in a relationship? And I always say I was never married. But the relationship, I thought it was going towards marriage. We do week on and week off. We switch every Sunday. It's like I have that week, that free week to myself where I can focus on what Kia wants to do and create all of these things for Kia.
Now, I wanted to say this too. I always say that not every single mother is created equally. And from what I saw in the video in which she was talking about him and the entire situation, I saw a woman who really wanted the relationship to work, right? She really wanted to be with him. She really wanted to stay with him. Now, I think that a lot of women also, because I have to talk about this, right? And this is no shade to anybody. This is no disrespect to anybody. But this opened up, so many different conversations that are necessary for to be had to women, right? And, she stated in the video that she, after the 4th child, she was hopeful of marriage, but she wasn't sure of the situation. And she was kind of holding on to figure that out. And I think that if we're being really honest, and it's interestingly enough because Dr. Cheyenne Bryant talked about it as well deeper in the conversation, a lot of women genuinely lie to themselves. Okay? There is no man that is feeding them any narrative. You know, there are a lot of women who are in situations who tell themselves the way in which a situation is supposed to be or it's going to be, whether it's, you know, Disney fairy tale, whether it's Lifetime movies, you know, they tell themselves that their situation is going to be a certain manner and they just keep going, but they do not know who their partner is. Okay? And I think that one thing that makes relationships last for the long haul, one thing that puts women in a different position with their spouse in a relationship is knowing your man. It's good enough to know men as a whole and know the nature of men, but you have to intricately, you know, find out who your man is and know how he operates, how he thinks, how he moves. It is very important that women do that because then they would understand how to properly place themselves and also, in a sense, position themselves in a way that is not going to upset them later on. There are a lot of women who are crying right now because a relationship did not work out, but that man has always been who he is and he's always been very honest with you. You just wanted to, you know, you wanted him to dim it down or you wanted him to change or you wanted him to become somebody else or something else because you did not want to believe that the fairy tale image that you really and genuinely had is not really going to happen with this man.
Women, we meet you and we're like, our idea and our fairy tale is you are Prince Charming, honey. And then we try to get you to fit Prince Charming. And the more you don't fit it, the more y'all end up in my office.
So Cam Newton stated, you know, that he doesn't believe in the terminology of broken home based off of his ability to effectively co-parent with the mother of his children, as well as his ability to be so active in their life, both physically and financially. And I thought it was very interesting when Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, you know, I believe she's a relationship therapist or a family therapist. I'm not exactly 100% sure, but I'll put it on the screen so you guys will know the proper credentials. But I thought it was very interesting that she said this because she was like, oh, you know, you can label it whatever your hurt ego wants it to be labeled as.
You can label it whatever your hurt ego needs it to be labeled so that you feel good about your choices.
And I thought that was very interesting coming from a therapist standpoint. And I also found it very disrespectful. Okay, this man called you on his platform to have a deeper conversation. It doesn't mean that everybody that you call on your platform you're going to agree with. But I think that when you are starting to kind of like throw little jabs at this person's real situation in front of them, again, as they are asking you to be a guest on their platform, I thought it was interesting that people were so upset then when he turned the question around and asked her, okay, at your age and stage in the game, since you know so much, okay, basically, for a lack of better words, since you know so much, since you got it all together, since you're so high functioning, why are you single? Interestingly enough, that's the same exact question that was posed to her when she went on the podcast with Nick Cannon as well.
Why hasn't it worked? And whose fault is it? Because you've been talking about accountability, you've been talking about high functioning, and you literally told me in my situation, because of the type of high functioning and low functioning people I'm choosing.
Yep.
Why hasn't it worked for you?
For the first few, I was low functioning.
So interesting. Again, I'm going to keep using that word interesting. You know, she stated that the reason why she is not married at this point right now is because she was low functioning herself, and through evolution and through growth, you know, she's changed and she's evolved. And so, you know, then that was her answer before with Nick Cannon. And then she had a different answer with Cam Newton, which she kind of like deflected the question. Okay. I'm just going to be honest with you. She kind of like flipped that question back to him and said, you know, why are we asking me why I'm not married when we should be asking people why they are, you know, rushing to the aisle to get married only to get divorced?
A very educated, a very attractive woman out of 41 years have not met Mr. Right.
The question shouldn't be, why isn't a woman of age, of success, of a certain caliber not married with kids? The question should be, why are people rushing to the altar just to become divorcees or baby mamas and baby daddies?
Now, when she said that, you know, about the, you know, the question shouldn't be this, the question should actually be that, you know, it kind of brought up a couple of things for me, because you're saying in one breath that, you know, Cam Newton himself needs to create family structures. He shouldn't be out here creating broken homes. You know, he should be having 2-parent households instead of going all these different places and creating, you know, baby mama blended family situations. But at the same time, you're also stating that, you know, you're making it seem as though the only product of marriage is divorce, when we all know that that's not true. So in my opinion, I believe that that is 100% deflecting from the question, because of the fact that she is genuinely not in a relationship. Now, I saw a lot of people coming at her because she's not in a relationship. However, she's giving advice. Now, I'm not going to say that there are things that she's saying that I don't agree with. I'm not going to say that she's not coming from a standpoint of, you know, she deals with children and families. So you can be from the outside looking in and see certain situations and certain qualities and, you know, certain dynamics that are going on, and be able to, you know, make educated, you know, responses, or have educated information about the dynamics surrounding a situation, even though you're not in it, because you see it so much in your office. I completely agree with that. And I also agree that you can get advice from anybody on a good day. Okay? You can get advice from different situations. However, I believe that a lot of people were targeting that part of the conversation because of how direct she was being in calling, you know, Cam Newton low functioning, and calling the mother of his children low functioning. And, you know, his conversation was, his question was very much, you know, reasonable. Same thing with Nick Cannon. Since you know so much, how come you are not able to replicate these things in your own life? Sometimes people, you know, even though they can listen to you and they can take advice from you, it's not good enough. They want to see you being that example. Because if you're calling everyone low functioning and you're so high functioning, how come you have not been able to attract somebody high functioning and make that situation work, since you have the answer key? And I personally think that that's a genuine question that people can ask. And I think it's understandable that people would ask that. And again, I have to say, I feel like her Uno reverse situation kind of like deflected, moved the goalpost, and started to talk about something else. And it's like, okay, yeah, we can talk about the fact that some people rush down the altar. That's a different conversation, but we want to stay right here and talk about you. Okay? We asking you about you. What's going on with you? How come it hasn't worked out with you? Genuine question, and I think that that's reasonable that people want the answer to that.
I think if anything, we need to be teaching our society, take your time, young man or young woman, so that you can get to know not just this person, but yourself first.
Another thing that she stated, you know, as you guys just saw, was that she was saying, you know, young man, young woman, you know, take your time to get to know people. But I believe that we can have that conversation to people when they're in their 20s. Okay? If you want to even go look, maybe to early 30s. But I think that there's a process, or there's a situation when, okay, these situations did not work out. You admitted that you were the problem in those situations, but are you able to actually make it work now? What's up with you now? What's going on now? Another thing I thought was very interesting is that in her talking about herself and her not getting married, she then turned around and made a very strange comment that almost, you know, was a complete example as to what Cam Newton was saying in his conversation. She turned around and she said, well, you know, high value men, you know, they're going to take the time. They're not just going to jump into marriages because, you know, of the status or the space that they're in their lives. And they want to take their time before they jump into these situations.
People who actually feel high valued within themselves, not financially, internally they feel high valued. They're not rushing to have a wife or a husband at the expense of divorce just to feel like they've added value to themselves.
People also brought up, you know, parts of the conversation in which Cam Newton said that he wants to have more children. And, you know, the fact that he's in a relationship right now with comedian Jasmine, I believe her last name is Brown. And, you know, people wanted to talk about his situation with that because he said that he did want to have more children. And, you know, they asked about his particular situation. Now, what I got from that, again, based off of the interview that he did with Erica Mena, is that he does not like to put a lot of focus on his relationship that he is in currently, right? Like, he does not like to talk about his intimate relationship. He doesn't necessarily like to expose certain dynamics or the dynamics that the two of them have. The two of them do live together, I believe. They are obviously in a relationship. And, you know, people even went as far to actually try to clown her on social media, saying, oh, aha, you had this, you know, the 8th child, or I think the 7th or 8th child for this man, and he doesn't want to marry you, and, you know, how humiliating. And, you know, I believe that the relationship that he is in right now, currently, he's in a relationship with a woman who knows him. And I have to say it again, that is where a lot of women drop the ball. He is in a relationship with a woman who knows him, who understands him, who respects him, who accepts his situation for what it is, not what she thinks it's supposed to be, not what she wants it to be. And they are, you know, effectively working through that situation together because of, again, her knowing this man. You can't be mad at nobody. You can't try to, you know, feel bad for anybody who's in a situation that they purposely put themselves in. She was not unaware of his situation when she got pregnant. She was very much aware, very much accepting, and again, very much okay with the situation. One thing that I wanted to talk about, you know, also was that Cam Newton was talking about how, you know, they were talking about the societal structure of a family unit. And, you know, this is kind of like another conversation for a different day. But I also wanted to talk about the fact that, you know, people like the Nick Cannon or the Cam Newton, I can name so many other various people who have multiple children, you know, based off of their ability to have multiple relationships. I think we also need to talk about the fact that there are men who are able and capable of having more than one woman at a time. I think that, you know, there is choice. There is certain situations where, you know, people are out here cheating and being behind people's back and just creating situations and nobody's in the know and doing people dirty. That's a whole different conversation. But there are women who are willingly participating in situations with a man who they know is involved with other women, and they are completely okay with that. And I think that other people create different structures, whether it is, you know, different societies in other countries, it's not so frowned upon. But when, you know, people in the West or men in the West are participating in certain things that they feel is of their nature, they get bashed for it, they get slammed for it. But when we see, again, other cultures, other societies operating in this way, they don't get that smoke. Once that person is able to financially take care of whatever situation, nobody cares about it. The women get together, all of a sudden the women can be as cool as they want to be. Because they are financially taken care of, they're not wanting for nothing, and in a lot of situations, they're not even working. But again, like I said, that's another conversation for a different day. Back to, you know, what I thought was very interesting was that, you know, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, in talking about low functioning behavior, as I stated before, she stated that, you know, she was low functioning. That's why those relationships didn't work out. And then she you know, changed and said that she, when she talked to Cam Newton, and said that she was, you know, high value and that she is not operating out of a certain way. And the question shouldn't be on her, basically saying that, you know, she is no longer low functioning. But then, you know, there was a couple clips that went viral of this same Dr. Cheyenne Bryant being on the show Basketball Wives, exuding what I would deem as low functioning behavior.
Come around here dressed like Dancing with the Stars. Shut the up. Shut up. You being scary, you punk. Shut up.
The first time I seen Dr. Bryant is when she did that Cam Newton interview and she was giving it to his ass. And I'm like, I like her. That's the type of therapist I want. That's the type of therapist I need. But then I see she's on Basketball Wives. She's single and she's not married. I'm confused, but that's not even a point. Why is she on the show arguing with Brooke, in cahoots with Jackie? Brooke said, you always look like you dress for Dancing for the Stars. She looked at Brooke and said, shut the fuck up, you punk ass, scary ass bitch. Dr. Bryant?
So based off of her calling this woman a punk A-B and, you know, shut the F up and exuding this like kind of like fighting, I'll square up with you behavior, you know, I thought that was very interesting because being poised and being a woman who is able to carry yourself in a certain demeanor, understanding the facets of other people being low functioning or high functioning, understanding the dynamics of how you deal with other people as a therapist, as a doctor, understanding those things, you would already not allow somebody to move you or control you to a certain extent that you come out of quote unquote character, unless that is something that is the norm for you, that you operate in occasionally, and you think there's nothing wrong with that.
Functioning woman feels the same thing a low functioning woman feels. She does two things differently. High functioning woman can regulate her emotions to articulate it so it comes out with emotional intelligence. And she uses what she feels, and chooses with her healthy self and not her dysfunctional self. That's the only difference.
Now, again, my personal opinion is, you know, you can say one thing, again, you can give good advice, you can have certain opinions, but to have such a strong standpoint, and there are things that people can draw out of you, would lead me to believe that possibly one of those reasons, you know, your get buck mentality or serve it back to somebody mentality could be one of the reasons why you are also not in a relationship, because you have that button. That once somebody presses button, it's on and popping. When being evolved would be somebody who has removed the button and nobody can get them, move them, shake them to act in a certain demeanor, because they are so in control of self, because they have done so much healing, because they have done so much work. That's my opinion. Now, guys, listen, I wish that I could have just sat here with you guys and just went over the entire video, the entire interview with you guys, and had the full conversation, because there's so many different divots and points in the conversation that I could have, you know, spoken on and stuff like that. But it's just too much. It was almost a 3-hour conversation. There's too much to get into in regards to that. But I could not let this conversation come up, you know, whether being under the weather or not, vacation or not, I had to come and have this conversation with you guys. So I'd like to know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear you guys' opinions on this entire conversation, even parts of the conversation that you guys watched that I did not mention or get the chance to go over. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this entire situation. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in the next one. Love you.